Sarah, you turn around, things are changing so fast. And a lot of these tech systems are changing just month by month by month. It's hard to keep up with the updates. So the whole retrofit thing is kind of a way to catch up in my mind with your existing equipment and, kind of get some of this tech out in the field that you can use. And hopefully, I mean, that's the bottom line, is to make yourself more efficient.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Field View episode of FP Next, powered by John Deere. I'm one of your co-hosts of this farmer and rancher-driven podcast, Sarah McNaughton Peterson, and I'm here with Kurt Arns.
Hi, Sarah. Yes, we're powered by John Deere. So for all of your equipment and technology needs, see your local Deere dealer. Well, I guess, Sarah, spring has sprung in the upper plains and the northern plains. And just like that, we have kind of all seasons in one day sometimes, right? In April, you just never know what you're going to get.
Absolutely. I know we've already visited about this a little bit, but I know a couple weeks before we recorded this episode, and there was sleet and hail, and then the sun was out, and all of a sudden was 60 degrees. I know you had a day pretty similar to that in Nebraska, didn't you?
Yeah, we've had a couple of them actually. And, temperatures swung from, I don't know, 85, I think was our high already this month. And yet we've been below freezing, several mornings. So, but it's nothing unusual. The wind, though, we've had our fair share of wind, right?
Oh yeah, I can't remember a time in the northern plains we haven't had like the gustiest days, and it's always when we're working cattle. Is always what it seems like our spring work with our team roping steers. It's always the weather is set to be perfect, and then we end up getting whiplash because then all of a sudden the wind gets up, and there's some rain, and then it gets cold, and the steers start getting mad, and the horses get mad from the wind, and it's just a windy time of year it seems like. And of course, we're all used to the weather whiplash around here, and especially in Nebraska, just the springtime weather, you never know what you're going to get. But we're super excited to have Weather 2020 founder Gary Lezak on with us again today to share a little bit about what farmers can be expecting for the growing season's weather. So Gary, I know we've got a lot of weather conversations we've already had in this episode so far, but I know a couple things we've heard a little bit about is the wind and the drought that a lot of farmers are experiencing. So what are you seeing on your forecasts?
Well, it's fascinating. The weather pattern is right on schedule. It is literally cycling this year around every 6 weeks. 38 to 44-day cycle is what it is. There's a storm coming out during the Easter weekend that is not just predicted, but you can go back and I can show you versions of it. And it's important I say that, versions of it, because with the LRC and our ability to predict week by week forecasts and precipitation, which weeks will be wet, which will be dry, etc., there's still seasonal differences that happen. The pattern sets up, it's cycling, and this storm coming in cycle one, cycle two, cycle three, cycle four, we had four versions of a storm, and it's coming in and it's going to produce a lot of rain in places that have been getting a lot of rain. It's going to produce a lack of rain and wind in places that have not had the rain. So when you're not getting hit, it's as much the LRC as if you are getting hit. I mean, you don't want to get too much rain, but you want to get at least enough. And I'm still bullish that this weather pattern is going to produce in many of the dry spots in the next 3 weeks. And then again, when this returns at the end of May into mid-June. But parts of the Dakotas, South Dakota, Nebraska, there are pockets that consistently continue to get missed. And even if the forecast looks like it's rain likely in the next 10 days, guess what happens at the end of the next 10 days? Those spots got missed again. So I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, Gary, a lot of the farmers I talk to, they just think they have a dome over their place because they just can't catch a drop. And the other day, I think within an hour period, we at our place we had rain, sleet, snow, and hail. And it's just pretty typical April, I guess, in the upper plains. Sarah and I live in kind of the northern plains area, but I'm looking at the drought monitor recently. Boy, that southern Texas and all along the West Coast just seems to continue just in the really extreme of extreme levels of drought. Is there going to be any relief for those folks, especially, in that Texas area, for instance?
Well, Texas has some potential. We'll have to see what happens with hurricane season. You never know what's going to happen in July and August. Well, we know what's going to happen. We know there's going to be one threatening the Texas coast, but will it go all the way west towards West Texas, or more likely, as you know, they usually curve into the middle part of the country? But the drought from Texas to the southwest United States, the rainy season just ended. So they're not going to get relief from the rainy season. The monsoon season will begin down there. And so sometimes Arizona and New Mexico could benefit with some heavy rainfall during the June, July, August monsoon season. Texas, probably not. That drought's going to expand. Droughts are either expanding or shrinking. The drought from Texas into the southwest United States is expanding steadily. The drought over Nebraska, South Dakota, centered over western South Dakota area, northeast Wyoming, that is shrinking. It is definitely shrinking. That's why, as I said, I think I'm forecasting, okay, I'm sticking my neck out there. I am predicting a pretty decent chance it's going to be adequate moisture in many of your areas that have not had that one drop. The next 15 days will be a test of that.
Absolutely. I know. I was just down in Arizona a couple weeks ago and it was hot and it was dry down there. And I was very happy to come back up north. But I know I was visiting with a farmer in the northeast South Dakota area, and he said he's had the least rainfall he's had
Wow.
in the past 37 years on his farm. So it's super exciting to hear some relief could be coming due to your forecasts. But of course, it's planting season, Like, what do you think the weather's going to be like for those people, even if we're planting up here in North Dakota? I know everybody else has been rolling in the fields for a while, especially down in Nebraska, because we're usually like the last the groups to get planted.
You want to plant and then have it rain, right? Is that what we want?
Right.
Is that ideal, Kurt?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That would sure be nice, right? Otherwise, you have to turn the
Yeah,
pivot on.
I know. So honestly, we've had this drier period, so we're having an opportunity to get some planting in instead of having it too wet for planting. So at least a lot of the crops are going to get planted now. We can use the LRC to our advantage. And when we look at the Weather 2020 Vision dashboard, I've analyzed the area. In fact, maybe in next week's report, I'll dive really into each state and just go at it and really look and see what it means for each state week by week. Of course, we can go down to day by day and down to the county level, down to basically your farm level pretty much. But I'm going to try to dive into that. In our overall broad picture, when I look at the LRC model for the Corn Belt stretching back into the winter wheat areas, I still see pockets that are showing 60 and 70% of average rainfall. So that means it's going to struggle. Even in when you're in a state, let's say Nebraska's in a wet season, the entire state it could be wet, but there's always still pockets of drought in. If you look at a state by state region in past wet periods, there's still spots that get missed. So there's various reasons for that. So if you've been getting missed, I would have a high level of concern as well as you do. Just know we have two phases of the weather pattern. There's a phase one that we're going into right now for these next 3 weeks, and that will return again 6 weeks later or the end of May, first part of June. Before summer gets here, we have 6 weeks that will bring us many chances for rain. It should not stay dry in your area. There's going to be a few pockets that we'll find out at the end of the day that happened. Many of you are about to experience at least an inch of rain. Okay. I'm not saying you're going to get a deluge and a flood, but at least an inch of rain in the next 10, 15 days. And that could make the beginning of the crop, right?
Yeah, I was in Grand Island on April 10th when they were planting corn at the Husker Harvest Days show site, and of course, the wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour that day, and you would think, as dry as the winter has been in that Platte River Valley area around Grand Island, that soil conditions would be just extremely dry. But actually, the topsoil was pretty decent. It was just right, really, for planting. But we're always concerned about getting the crop out of the ground, obviously. So looking at the drought monitor again, it looks like the eastern corn belt, is in pretty fair shape according to that. What is the outlook for planting over in the eastern corn belt, for instance?
Yeah, Illinois, and it's funny. I got a really a new customer of ours in Illinois. He was reading our weather intelligence report. He goes, "How come I only talk about areas west of the Mississippi?" and Illinois is east of the Mississippi. And on that report, I did have Illinois and Indiana on there. But I didn't talk about it. So it shows you I need to talk a little bit about it too. They're going to be fine. I looked at the model for their southern Indiana, southern Illinois. Very likely going to have too much rain at times, but they're not. They just got a lot of rain. I think it's going to dry out a little bit. The northern parts of those states and western areas closer to the Mississippi River, near average rainfall. So I think we're fine, and I think that region is going to be fine. But this guy said he found out about us in January, and he's been following for the last 3 months, and the cycles have been spot on. And I like to hear that from customers out there. But now we need to still time it out. The timing of rain is so important.
Absolutely. And Gary, I know we're going to have you back on kind of end of June, beginning of July, so we can see like if those soybean pods are going to fill up, how those pastures are going to look for the rest of the year. But any kind of closing thoughts on weather insights to share to our farmer listeners?
Yeah, the same weather pattern that sets up in October, November. And by the way, if you remember, it started out very dry. In October, it was dry. And then November started producing some wet storm systems. And so we've had a dry part of the pattern and a wet part of the pattern. As we go towards June and July, and the next time we talk, I will clearly lay out when and if there's going to be any major heat wave. At this moment, my first inclination, without studying it a lot, is no major heat waves this summer, but there still could be 3 4 day stretches that could be impacting. And so I'll try to pick those out in our next update.
Yeah, Gary, this is a lot of fun because we kind of continue the conversation on through the growing season. So that's part of the great thing about having you on kind of on that quarterly basis, so farmers can kind of plan out as we go. And gee, you're as close to a crystal ball as we can get.
I that's what I say in my report. I say we got the crystal ball. We know what's going to happen. We know how the weather pattern is going to behave. This, well, maybe not behave, but this storm coming in right now, right on schedule, and but still predicting exactly what's going to happen where you live, it's still very challenging. But thank you. Yeah, we'll do that.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, thank you again for joining us and sharing some insights. We'll have to check back in June and July. Kind of like we said last time, we're going to have to make sure your crystal ball worked. And I know you've got all the science behind it that goes way far over my head, but I always manage to make jokes about crystal balls, it seems like, Kurt, when I'm asking any kind of question. So, Gary, thank you for joining us. For our listeners, the Weather 2020 links will, of course, be in the episode description. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, Gary. Hope you have a good start to your spring. I know we also had some of that weird sleet and hail situation up here in North Dakota, but like Kurt said, that's just April in the Northern Plains.
Remember rule number one of forecasting the weather: always look outside because you never know.
It's always great to have Gary on because he's the closest thing I think we have to a crystal ball when it comes to the weather with his long range forecasting tool he has. And of course, like we mentioned, he's going to be coming back on later in the growing season to share a little bit. But turning the topic a little bit for the day, Kurt, we both got to travel to a couple big conferences and trade shows this spring. You, of course, headed to Denver for Commodity Classic, and I headed south to San Antonio for CattleCon. And it was both of our first time attending these shows. So, how would you say your first time at Commodity was, Kurt?
Well, it was in Denver this year, so it was pretty close for us. And actually, I really enjoyed I love our Farm Progress show and Husker Harvest Days, obviously. Great outdoor, the best outdoor farm shows really anywhere. But Commodity Classic was very interesting. And we got to catch up with a lot of, farmers from our area who attend every year. Really got to visit with a lot of the commodity folks. And, it was just overall a great show, big show, and got to sit in on some really interesting sessions too. One of the sessions I was at was talking about getting small grains, into the crop rotation. So I really enjoyed that. There was a bunch of them like that were really very interesting.
Absolutely. I know besides just getting to visit with a lot of cattlemen from all over the country at CattleCon, those sessions that they have set up at those conferences are always so interesting and they're such timely topics. I know we had a lot of conversations about like um, grazing practices and carbon programming and talking about beef quality and a lot about what consumers think about beef anymore and some other ways that we can be like marketing beef. And so it was very interesting. I did miss going to Commodity Classic. I get a little bit of FOMO when I don't get to go to all these shows, but we can only be in so many places in the spring. But you got to have a pretty cool conversation with some of our favorite equipment dealers, didn't you?
You bet. John Deere powers our podcast, so we love visiting with the folks at John Deere, and of course they were at Commodity Classic in a very huge way in Denver, and I got to talk with a couple of folks from John Deere, and you know they're very in tune to the financial challenges, uncertainty in the ag markets these days, and they talked a lot about technology that you can retrofit on your equipment, all the way from planter and sprayer to combine, that will help you be more efficient, less expensive to get into the door on some of these, tech things. And so they gave us really an overview of the whole growing season and how you can add tech, retrofit tech onto your existing equipment. So we want to welcome Kyle Berry, Manager of Precision Upgrades Marketing, and Clint Schaffer, Product Marketing Lead for Precision Upgrades from John Deere, to our podcast today. Why don't you walk us into some of these updates for some of the machinery that you've been talking about?
Yeah, so when we think about upgrades and upgrading your machines and the ones that you have, it all kind of starts with our core components and the foundation. And so we have a new offering called our Precision Essentials offering. And what that is it's your core components, your display, receiver, and modem all bundled together into one kit. We've lowered the upfront cost of that significantly so that more customers are able to adopt the latest display and receiver technology from Deere, as opposed to being caught behind in the trade cycle. So the Precision Essentials kit, you get to pick either a G5 or a G5 Plus display. You get a Starfire 7500 receiver, and then an M or an R series modem, depending on what machine you're putting it in. You select the modem that makes the most sense for that machine. Gets that machine into the operation center, so that we can manage where it is, what it's doing, all of those things. But depending on the display and the licenses that you pick, the kit starts at $2,600, which is significantly reduced from what it would traditionally cost if you bought all the components by themselves. So that's the G5 display pricing with the receiver and the modem. If you go to a G5 Plus display with a receiver and a modem, it's a little bit more expensive, but you then pair that with a license. So we sell you 2 years of AutoTrack for $1,900, or you can get a Precision Essentials license, which gives you AutoTrack, section control, and row sense for $2,000 a year, or our G5 Advanced license, which gives you those three foundational technologies, as well as our advanced technologies like AutoTrack turn automation, machine sync, AutoTrack implement guidance, AutoPath. Those are the things you'll find in that advanced license, along with SFRTK for $4,250 a year. So you buy the hardware, you pick the license. Depending on what that machine is going to do, you might only need AutoTrack. And we used to call this kit Precision Ag Essentials, and we've taken the ag part out because it's not just about our ag customers anymore. With the introduction of the G5 display, we're able to go into markets that maybe we traditionally weren't with that G5 Plus display. So for our high value crops customers, or maybe our livestock and dairy segments, they're able to adopt this technology into their machines too. And maybe traditionally they wouldn't have because the upfront cost was so high.
In today's financial climate for farmers, affordability is a huge deal, so they're able to access a lot of technology really for a pretty affordable price, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for, is to bring the affordability to more and more customers. to get them that core foundation, so that some of the stuff we're going to talk about as we get through the segment here is how do we bring more customers along the precision technology journey that we're going on at Deere, so that we can ultimately make our customers more profitable.
So what do you think, Clint? I mean, as far as the needs of farmers, what are you hearing out in the country, and what are some of the upgrades that are most popular, that you're hearing from your farmer customers?
Yeah, a lot of it is, farmers they have these great pieces of equipment that are sitting in their sheds today, right? And but they really want to be able to take that piece of equipment and get it to the latest technology, and that's where precision upgrades really shines. As I start looking at one of the more exciting ones that we have is really around our planting precision upgrades, where we can take the planter that's currently sitting in your shed and we can bring it up to the same specs as a 2025 planter, right? And so we're actually introduced our ultimate planter upgrades, and what that allows a farmer to do is actually take that planter, strip it down to the bar, replace all the row units with brand new row units, new wiring architecture with our Seed Star 5, and then also even get a year's worth of warranty, factory warranty on that. So you can take that, say a 2012 planter, and in the end, you have that same setup as that new planter that's with all the latest technology there. The other piece that we ended up introducing a couple weeks ago was around our meter upgrade kits. And this is for planters 2015 and newer. And instead of replacing the entire row unit, that farmer can really replace just that meter and be able to choose either our MaxEmerge 5E meter or our high-speed ExactEmerge with brush belt meter, right? So it really gives them that opportunity to expand that performance of again their current planter that's sitting in their shed. Along with a lot of those meter upgrades and ultimate planter upgrades, we also have different upgrades for fertilizer. We have our exact rate, and then we also have exact shot, which that exact shot is an amazing technology that's actually doing seed dosing and saving a farmer up to 60% of their fertilizer inputs. So on starter fertilizer there. So really, really cool technology as we start thinking about these precision upgrades.
Well, and savings is everything right now, so that is kind of a big deal. So these upgrades are, a lot of the thought has been given to being able to retrofit and upgrade things without a great amount of money, right?
Absolutely. And the whole thing is really trying to customize everything to your operation, right? And so going back to like the ultimate planter upgrade, you get to customize that row unit, right? Select your meter, either MaxEmerge 5E or ExactEmerge, and then also select your row cleaners, your closers, right? All of those things to where it's designed to fit your operation and how you're farming.
As far as upgrades, you want to talk a little bit about the air seeders?
Yeah, so traditionally when people think about upgrading, planter upgrades is probably the first thing that comes to mind, but it's not just about planters anymore. We're now into the air seeding market. So last year at Commodity Classic, we launched the C-Series air carts, and a part of the C-Series air carts was the Accurate stainless steel meters that are electronically controlled, and we can bring those through upgrades to what was last year's C650 and 850 air carts back to model year 17. New for model year 26, we're going to expand that to our 1910 air carts all the way back to 2005. So there's a lot of air carts in that span that are in the marketplace that could likely use some updates to the meter controls that they have. So you get the stainless steel meter housing, but you also get electronically controlled meters that allow you to do section command on that machine. You can pair it with EasyCal, which allows you to reduce your calibration times by 75%. So it's significantly faster and easier to do with the G5E cart side display. But it's really how do we bring that precision that we talk about and everything else to air seeding, and Accurate gives us the ability to do that.
So more to talk about. How about the sprayers?
Yeah, so when we think about sprayers, we have a whole portfolio, but really the foundation of the sprayer technology journey is nozzle control. So we have two nozzle control technologies. One's Individual Nozzle Control Pro. The other one's ExactApply. The first one I'll talk about is Individual Nozzle Control Pro. It's a 15 hertz pulsing nozzle body, so it gives us section control down to the individual nozzle. So if you have 15-inch nozzle spacing, you have section control every 15 inches. So as you come into waterways or point rows, whatever it might be, we're really putting the product where we need to and not over applying or under applying, causing crop damage. Or we maybe have weed escapes, and now we have weeds that go seed and cause weed pressure to increase. So that's what Individual Nozzle Control Pro does. We can build upon that and go to Exact Apply. So Exact Apply is our 6-turret nozzle body. We actually have the ability to use 2 nozzles at the same time out of that system. So it gives us somewhat of a 3-speed transmission. So you're able to maintain rate and pressure across more speed ranges. Ink Pro is compatible back to 2008, 4730 and 4830 sprayers. Exact Apply is compatible back to 2014 John Deere sprayers. So depending on what the customer has, what they're looking for, Exact Apply would be the more advanced solution. It's a 30 hertz pulsing system with the ability to use those 2 nozzles. And then, but we can retrofit BoomTrack Pro 2 onto 2018 and newer machines. And then we also have a product recirc and reclaim system. So that's really about priming the boom system, but also keeping the product circulating to prevent anything from settling. And then whenever we're going to switch product or something like that, you're able to reclaim all that product from the boom plumbing back into the tank, as opposed to having to spray it on the ground or do something else with it, because it used to be a one-way path. Now it's not. So that's recirc and reclaim. And then ultimately, See and Spray Select are 2 technologies that we bring through the upgrade market. So traditionally it was See and Spray Premium. A lot of customers have probably heard about it. For model year 26, you can put See and Spray Premium on a 90, 100, or 120 foot boom back to 2018 for John Deere sprayers. You need Exact Apply, BoomTrack Pro 2, and a G5 Plus display, but that's kind of the foundation of getting to that targeted weed control technology. See and Spray Premium is a green on green in season product, where See and Spray Select is going to be for model 26. That's a green on brown technology, mostly in Western Canada in the plains. It's mostly for fallow use, but we're seeing more adoption of that product, and our customers have asked for the ability to retrofit in model year 20. We're excited that we're going to have the ability to do that. So it's really, like Clint talked about earlier, how do we meet the customer where they are, and how do we put more and more technology on these machines to help them solve the problems that they're experiencing in their operation? And that's just a little bit about how the sprayer portfolio can help a customer.
Well, and it's all about ROI, right? I mean, you want it to pay for itself, and even something simple as keeping your chemicals mixed properly in the tank. That just makes sure that it does the job, that you're going to kill the weeds that you need to kill, and that's just part of the package that makes it so exciting, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when we talk about just individual nozzle control alone, the ability to have section control at that small of section widths, that alone saves customers 2 to 5% on their chemical inputs. Then we start talking about what recirc and reclaim can do, and that can save a customer like $600 a day, just with the ability to put that product back into the tank. And then we talk about Spray Premium. That's the targeted weed control. Last year, on average, we sprayed over 1 million acres with See and Spray technology, and we saw an average savings of 59% on their non-residual herbicide. So there's an ROI in all of that, and sometimes you just have to walk your way up. You can stair step your machine up, depending on where you're at, to get ultimately to See and Spray Cincinnati technology.
ROI isn't just on sprayers. We need to talk a little bit about combines, right? And so that is the big day, is when you get to harvest. And so why don't you talk a little bit, Clint, about some of the upgrades that are available on some of the John Deere combines?
Yeah, you talk about that's the payoff, right? So that's where farmers are getting their report card, right, on how we did throughout the season. The combine side is really all about focusing on efficiency, productivity. How can we end up really creating a more stress-free environment for the operator as well? And that's where we have a lot of different technology that we can end up adding. I'll go through the S700 kits that we have. So a couple of the precision upgrades that we have is a adjustable spout. And I always think about this. I've spent a lot of time at a combine. If you've ever dumped into a semi, it is incredibly hard to hit that semi trailer, right? And being able to just adjust that spout and be able to get that accuracy down where you limit your spills, and again, just reduce a little bit of the stress off of the combine operator at that point in time. So that can be retrofitted back on the S700 combines. Along with that, we have our cross auger shutoff, and what that does is you actually put clutches on the chain that on your grain tank. And that's integrated fully into the system. And what that does is when you shut the unloading auger off, it will automatically empty out the unloading auger, so you no longer have all of that weight that's hanging out there. And the other piece that ends up doing is not only do you don't have all that weight, but on the next startup, you're not trying to start all of that grain that's in that unloading auger.
It settles down.
It does, yeah. So it's really reducing the wear and tear on that machine, right? From again just weight reduction and then easier startup times. And the key piece, both the adjustable spout and cross auger shutoff, the big thing that I always like to point out to a farmer is it's integrated into your machine, right? There is no foot pedal that you have to push to shut it on and off or to adjust the spout. Your spout is adjusted on your hydro handle, right? It's right there, easy to access. And again, on the on the cross auger shutoff, it's all automated, right? So you set that and you hit a button and it does it all automatically at that point in time. So really great technologies for the S700s. On the X9s, we have some really great opportunity as well, which again, trying to drive that time efficiency and productivity. We have two different offerings. We have our remote separator grate covers. And this is great for farmers and small grains. You can end up adjusting the covers on your separators from the seat of your cab. You no longer have to get out to go and adjust those. So if you're going through different crop conditions, you can make those adjustments on the fly. The other piece that we have is new concaves and concave covers, and again, these are it's an incredible concave system where they're smaller, easier to handle concaves, and then one that we have for both the S700s 2020 and newer, and then the X9s 21 and newer. We have a new feature that we just launched at Commodity Classic here, which is the Combine Auto Unload. And what this is doing, this is utilizing based off of our machine sync, where when that auger wagon pulls up next to you, normally the combine operator would have to move that machine forward and back to top it off, right? And what Combine Auto Unload does, it puts a perception kit up on the auger, and it's actually looking down into that grain tank, and it's going to move that machine automatically and make sure that you top that off with no spills. And so again, that combine operator doesn't have to worry about constantly looking over at the auger wagon, worrying about filling. That system's gonna be automated to where it's gonna top it off with no pressure there. So it's absolutely incredible when we start thinking about all the technology that we're adding and the automation features that are coming along with precision upgrades.
Well, and it's about getting all the crop in the bin in your grain tank, but also about some convenience to kind of reduce some of the fatigue for the operator, right?
Absolutely. I mean, anything that we can do to limit fatigue on the operator, whether that's in a combine or in a tractor, as we start thinking about some of the autonomy features that are going to be coming through precision upgrades for autonomous tillage. A lot of that is reducing fatigue, increasing production. When you're out there operating, you have a limited window of opportunity to get that crop out, right? Or to get that crop in during planting, any of that, right? These windows seem like they get shorter every year. So anything we can do to increase productivity and again, drive down operator is what we're really focused on.
So can you talk just a little bit about, all of the umbrella of precision ag tools, maybe give us a little peek into what's coming next or what you are excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think Clint kind of talked about it a little bit. We're talking a lot about autonomy here and in the booth at Commodity and what that's going to unlock for operators. We know oftentimes labor is a challenge for some of our customers to find throughout the season as we deal with the seasonality of agriculture. And I think when you think about precision and where we're going and what we're doing, we're constantly innovating products, because at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do. And we think about precision ag and precision upgrades, it's about opening the opportunity up for more customers than ever before. You don't have to be a new equipment buyer to get combine. You don't have to be a new equipment buyer to have autonomy on your farm. We're going to bring that technology through an upgrade first path. And so getting our customers and dealers and everybody out there aware and understanding of just how accessible a lot of this technology really is to customers. That's what Clint and I have been talking a lot about. And the rest of the Deere team here in the booth is just, you don't have, you look at the shiny machines in the booth and you say, oh man, this is awesome, but I can't afford it. That's not who I am. And that's not what my operation allows. And you start to have a conversation with that customer around, okay, what are some of the pain points that you have? And it might not be through a brand new tractor or a brand new planter, but they can take the equipment they already own, upgrade it to the latest technology that we have, and increase their bottom line.
One of the other things that I think of, just kind of tying the entire thing together too, which is really that one operating system for the farm too. And so it's really interesting as you start thinking about having John Deere Operations Center where you're feeding in all of your planter information, your sprayer passes, right? Being able to really understand and analyze what's going on to your farm, so you can just continue to make those different tweaks and changes and continue to try increasing the production of your operation, as well as there's a lot of other tools as we start thinking about logistics and keeping track of different machines and that nature. That John Deere Operations Center really ties that whole story together. Yeah, one of the other things, Kurt, too, is looking at our partnership with SurePoint Ag Systems as well, and that's another solution that we always like to talk to farmers about. That maybe they don't have that green planter on their operation, and they're trying to get into electric meters, right? SurePoint Ag Systems has a wonderful solution. Talk to them with about their new MVX electric metering system. You can pair that up with their GFX row cleaners and their RFX row unit suspension kit, as well as as Kyle talked about sprayers. They have a amazing new 10 trailer, their Arsenal trailer, that has technology like Quick Draw on it, that makes the refilling and mixing of solutions so much easier and faster for a farmer. So that's another great opportunity. I would urge your listeners to go out there and check out Joint Ag Systems.
Well, I'll tell you, I appreciate John Deere powering FP Next. And Sarah, I think we're going to throw it back to you now from Commodity Classic in Denver.
Of course, Kurt, we always have fun. We get to visit with John Deere and a lot of other people at these big shows. We always have a good time, but it really seems like such a timely topic. There's so much in growth in the ag tech realm, but not everybody wants to go out and buy a brand new combine or a brand new tractor to use all of this new technology. And so it's really cool to kind of have that conversation of like retrofitting and how you can implement some of that technology on machinery you already own.
Yeah, and the machinery manufacturers are in tune with that. They know what's going on out in the field, and I think for many farmers who really want to adopt new tech in their machinery, this kind of thing is just sort of that front door that you could get your foot in the door once and kind of start understanding some of the new systems and new tech. But, Sarah, you turn around, things are changing so fast. And a lot of these tech systems are changing just, month by month by month. It's hard to keep up with the updates. So the whole retrofit thing is kind of a way to catch up in my mind, with your existing equipment and, kind of get some of this tech out in the field that you can use. And hopefully, I mean, that's the bottom line, is to make yourself more efficient. And, that's really the whole thing in my mind. And so the ability to retrofit some of this tech onto your equipment is just awesome. And the good folks at John Deere are not the only ones. There's a lot of that going on. And I think it's good for farmers, actually.
Absolutely. Boosting efficiency and saving costs, that's really the whole game with a, kind of financial climate that farmers and ranchers are working through right now. But super glad you got to have that conversation with those guys over at John Deere. Well, Kurt, I think that about wraps it up for this Field View episode of FP Next, powered by John Deere. Some of those links and topics we talked about today, including Weather 2020's website, will be in the episode description.
Yes, and to our listeners, we want to thank you again for tuning into this episode of FP Next, allowing us into your tractor cab, your truck, on your farm, in your shop, and in your fields. A special thank you, as always, goes out to our sales, digital, production, and marketing team members who put in a lot of work with us. And if you want to be sure not to miss any top stories, sign up for our Farm Progress text blasts, which bring the hot stories right to your inbox.
You can sign up for those text alerts by texting FARM, FARM, to 20505. Be sure to follow Farm Progress on social media to stay up to date with ag news and more, and check out the digital edition of your regional publication at farmprogress.com. And Kurt, we will be having that special Women in the Field digital edition coming out. So make sure you guys sign up early for that if you want to see. We've got some great stories sharing women in agriculture from all across the country. And make sure to stay tuned for our next deep dive episode where we have one of those promised celebrity guests we talked about at the beginning of the year. We're talking tractors with Max Armstrong in a special video episode coming up.
Yeah, about the Women in the Field digital editions, those are going to be great. A lot of really good stories, some video and audio with some of these stories, and so you just won't want to miss it. But yeah, the visit with Max was just so much fun, and he takes us into his tractor shed and talks a lot about tractors, antique tractors that he's visited and knows about and has been involved with over the years, including the very first tractor that he got, the first antique tractor that he got for his shed. So it was a awesome visit with Max for sure. So you absolutely won't want to miss that.
Absolutely. It's always fun to visit with kind of those like mainstays of the industry. So we were excited to have Max on. And remember, you can follow along with FP Next by listening and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube or Farm Progress online. And be sure to leave us a review if you enjoy the show.
It's 5 stars or nothing, Sarah.
Absolutely. And remember, if it's agriculture, your friends at Farm Progress have you covered. Here's wishing you high yields and good weather. We'll see you next time.